Welcome to another round of SDH AM. John Nelson here. John, hear you there, and it's time to roll through what happened on the weekend. Obviously, our focus, for the most part, will be Atlanta United and the 2-1 loss to Messi and friends yesterday on Sunday Night Soccer. It was great to see a lot of you out there in the 42,000 plus that was made available for us for this particular matchup. So the rundown obviously is going to be what it traditionally is on a Monday. No real changes. It's going to be Abe Gordon coming in. He'll be coming in, say, 8 minutes or so. And we will go over what's going on in Abe's mind. We'll go over what's going on in your mind. And in hour number 2, it'll be Bart Keeler from the Soccer for USPOD. There are a couple of things that happened on the weekend that I wanted to get into with Bart, having to do with mass confrontation rules and distractions and the savviness of offensive players. Is it savvy? Is it savviness of offensive players, or is it the notion of not being able to make a call when it comes to a decision where you have an offensive player who is making a run toward net and being very, very savvy when you look at it on video. The offensive player knows that their space is running out, so what they'll do is they will step in front of a defending player or the player currently defending. Then the defending player makes a motion, kicking, running into whatever. You end up with a PK. We saw this in the Red Bulls match on the weekend with Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting. So I wanted to get into that with Bart. Also wanted to get into national team stuff with Bart and all of that. So that's the rundown for today. So anything that is on your mind that is there this morning, so we can get into handballs. I know Pars is out of the blocks this morning, and Pars now, admittedly, in Morning Alex, Morning Abby, there is something, Abby, that we can get into about the yellow cards as well, and that was kind of. We can talk about it in hour number 1, but I want to discuss it in the larger picture with Bart in hour number 2, where you have more than one individual. And this is why I wanted to get into mass confrontation, but at the same time, it is looking at very, very intelligent footballers who figure out where the line is, figure out what they can do and what they can't. And then what they will do is they will see that line, but then they'll try to figure out the line from another angle. It's like, okay, well, if I can't, if it comes to fouling, then what about doing other things? And so in simulation, we can get into that too. So there are things to discuss through the prism of being an official that I want to ask Bart about. And just get into the idea of, and I'm trying to, and what I want to do is, as I'm sitting here and trying to think about it, I want it to be a discussion about the craft itself and not necessarily about the calls from the weekend, because it's something that we see, and it is something that that we can react to in a certain way. So it's talking through it and having, getting into the notion of persistent infringement, getting into the notion of simulation, getting into all of those different things. And so I want to find out what goes through an official's mind and what you should or shouldn't be looking for in those kinds of things. So I want to look at what happened yesterday and advance the conversation, if that makes any sense. And so we'll get into Bart's head about all of these kinds of things coming up in just a little bit, and the consistency, and Pars is getting into consistency and inconsistency of calls and things like that. And so there are a lot of frustrating points that are attached to what happened last night, but I want to take them and I want to work forward with them, if that makes any sense. And so we'll get into that here in hour number 1 and hour number 2, and then as the week goes along, we'll hear from head coach Ronnie Dyla and welcome back Brooks Lennon and all those kinds of things. So we'll get into that today. We'll discuss it as we go down the road, but it's going to be an interesting week as we get ready for Atlanta United in Cincinnati, because of all of the absences that are going to be attached to players for Atlanta United, national team absences, and things like that. And so this will be, as we mentioned last night on the full-time report, it will be a very challenging week for not just Ronnie Dyla and his staff, but then once again, as we go, let me look at my grid here. So as we look at what you're looking for in Atlanta United 2. And so with the twos, the fact that they are out of the barn for a while, so that literally after today, and this was me not looking at the schedule off the top of my head, but it will be an interesting period of time for the entire organization here with the international window because of the twos and their win. And this is what we'll also discuss involving what happened last night with the twos, where they scored a goal with about 15 minutes to go and were able to get a 2-2 draw out of Orlando in Osceola Heritage Park. So you bypass this upcoming weekend. And so that's a bit of a saving grace for the twos standpoint when you're looking at their next go-round. So I'm sitting here looking at, so CFC is a 7:30 start on the 30th. So you get to bypass this week and any possible headaches that might be attached to that. So do not be surprised if making the trip to Cincinnati that you might have a Ronan win, and that's just a part of it. So you might have a Javi Armas if he's recovered from injury. Last night, by the way, at Osceola Heritage Park in the 2-2 draw, you only had 4 position players and a backup keeper there for Steve Cook and Atlanta United 2, and you end up with a 2-2 draw by the end of it. Orlando ended up winning 4-1 in PKs to get the extra point, but Atlanta goes on the road having 13 position players and 12 position players. Wait, 4, 10, 10. So 14 position players, 2 keepers. They had 16 down in Orlando, and Orlando won last night in PKs. So it'll be interesting to see what the integration is of the twos players coming into the roster for the trip to Cincinnati. So we have that to look at as well. So there's a lot of different things to look at here today. Once again, the Twitch pitch is yours. You can hang out, you can look at it, and let everybody know what's on your mind. I do want to make one point before Abe comes in here in a little bit. No, Pars, we have not heard about Edwin. Edwin, the update we had on Edwin after the match was that, and this comes from Jarrett for being in the locker room, that Edwin was walking with a limp. It was noticeable, but no update as to what the actual malady may be. But before I bring Abe in, really quick, and I know that Abe is like busy and everything. He's actually got a job. Last night, at the end of the match, you had some 17s that were throwing things at the officials. That's unacceptable. And I know that this doesn't apply really to anyone here in our purview, but if you see anybody, you know anybody, pass the message along. You tell 2 friends, they tell 2 friends, and so on and so on and so on. Don't throw things at the officials. Don't. That's unacceptable. Just don't do it. Don't do it. It's not cool. People were throwing things at the officials. Uh-oh. Abe's got a frumpy face, so let's go. So Abe was looking kind of cross. I was explaining what happened late last night, but yeah, I haven't seen that face from you in a bit, sir. You had a furrowed brow and a frumpy look.
Well, look, we had 92.9 the game night a couple of weeks ago at the Atlanta Hawks game, and I showcased the arm and won the T-shirt toss
Yeah,
contest.
you went upper tank, brother.
I went as far as I could, and I was just thinking, like, man, you gotta have a pretty good arm if you're gonna hit the officials. They're only coming down to that sideline near and into the tunnel for a short time. So if you're hitting them from any distance, that's quite a throw. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we see this around soccer worldwide, week in, week out, with chants that should not be said
Nope.
across the globe, and the disrespect of officials, no matter how good or bad of a match they called. Completely unacceptable on both accounts, and the Atlanta United fan base needs to hold themselves to a higher standard. And like you said, it's about people keeping their friends responsible and doing the right thing. So let's get on that.
Yeah, let's get on that. So 100 pounds worth of not cool, and don't do it, bottom line. Last night, now that you've had a chance to sleep on what happened, happened was, so now that you've had a chance to sleep on it, what sticks in your head after the 2-1 loss to Inter Miami?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, because I do think you are somewhat optimistic about the performance of Atlanta United, but you also have to understand that it was all for naught, as you gave up a goal right near stoppage time, the 89th minute, and it cost you the ability to split points in this one. I think there was a long stretch in the second half where I said, man, Miami's getting a little bit better of you, but it's relatively even, and it feels like you'd be happy with a point. Feels like they'd be happy with a point, and hopefully we could see it out. Unfortunately, that just wasn't the case, and you probably deserved a little bit better in terms of the scorebook. So that was unfortunate, but you are seeing some good things, and you are seeing some progress, but you're also continuing to see certain things that you need to circle and say, hey, this is where we need to take the biggest jump forward. And for me, it is still what's going on up top. There is still a wild amount of issues up top. And the good news is, I think all of them are fixable. I think all of them come with more time being played. But at the same time, you've got a long run here. You started out the season with a lot of home games, and you really didn't pick up that many points from them, and albeit against good teams. But you never want to get too far behind where teams are and how many teams you're going to have to jump over the course of the season. And again, we played, 4 matches,
Right.
like 10% of the season. I think you mentioned that number.
4 over 34 is like 2 over 17, which might be like 16, 17%. So, yeah.
So there's still plenty of time. You can see the potential is there. But they've got to work on a number of things up top. I think once that happens, you are going to start to see this team hopefully take off, especially against lesser competition, which unfortunately Atlanta United just hasn't seen any of thus far. It was great to see Brooks Lennon back out there. Obviously, he had the impact, the 11th minute, and assist. But the other thing is you've got guys in Moranchuk, Saba, and Miggy. Latte Love's the only one that scored this season. Mosquera's got one as well. But you got to get the rest of these guys finding bigger impacts. Miggy had a secondary assist yesterday. That's a good start. But once they get clicking, and we do expect at some point they will get clicking, you can see where this is headed. But you got to get there, and you don't want to kill too much time doing it.
No, and you mentioned a couple of different things. And I'll go ahead and I'll start with what you mentioned up top. And I think that it is 2 things that you can look at, and I think it's fairly safe that you can look at them mutually exclusively. It is the idea of getting to know the folks around you, and then the pressure of expectation. Because and I think you can separate them and discuss them individually. And yes, I know you can blend them together and have that same conversation. But I think that it was a point that, that in our conversation last night on Full Time Report, specifically with Alexei Miranchuk, it's like, all right, I knew what I was doing last season when I could connect with Saba. I knew what my thought patterns were there. Now he has to add what's going on with Latte Lot. You have to add what's going on with Miggy. So you add that to all the thoughts that are going on that you have to figure out, okay, if he goes here, he goes here, he goes here. You've got your familiarity, but you've got some work to do. And then you have all of the money that was spent on all of this attack. and they're still trying to find their way. And so I look at it two separate things, but yes, you can blend them together. All of these different things coming together after 4 matches, I know it's a big talking point for folks.
Well, you never want to shackle the players who can create moments of brilliance, but you do wonder a little bit if there's so much freedom that they just haven't had an opportunity to really figure it out. And if you had a little bit more defined roles, a little bit more defined spacing in these early stages, maybe they would be on a different level. And then would you be able to work in the ultimate freedom down the road, or would that have been a hindrance no matter what? It does make you think, especially in terms of Alexei Miranchuk, who probably has the most difficult task, right? I mean, you've got three guys in Saba, Miggy, and Latte Lath that are trying to find openings, trying to find dangerous positions to get in, all while kind of paying attention to the others and figuring out their aspect. But Miranchuk is stuck seeing all three, trying to read all three, trying to figure out the communication between them before he plays one of 3 or 4 or 5 potential passes. And so far, he just hasn't really figured out what's the exact right pass in the right moment. And I do think that'll come. But again, it might have been a little bit easier to learn if there were a little bit less freedoms, a little bit more parameters. But again, ultimately, you don't want to hinder and limit the potential. And so it's probably taking a little bit longer than you would hope, a little bit longer than you would expect. And also, the quality opponent is not one to mess around with. And I think that has to be considered as well. And you do wonder if you do get into some upcoming matches past this week with Cincy, that maybe you look at some opponents that you should be handling, and you could put 3 or 4 on it if you don't see things start to connect a little bit more. But again, it's not just Miranchuk. There were issues last night with Saba and Latte Lath occupying the same space. I thought there were issues with Brooks Lennon and Miggy Almiron kind of occupying the same space. Not sure which guy's going to make the run, which guy's going to receive the pass, stuff like that. So it's still a lot to work on, early stages of the season. But at some point, you got to start to bring home 3 points at a time.
No doubt. And one of the things we get the welcome back was Brooks Lennon.
Yeah.
And literally, and I think that Brooks and his connection with Latte Lath in that goal in the 11th minute, I think that in and of itself is what Atlanta United fans are looking for. It literally is like Derek to Miggy. Miggy goes long, finds Brooks. Brooks goes in with a cross. Latte Lath hits the 3rd floor button on the elevator, and it smashes into the back of the net with Saba waiting at the back post in case something went wrong. That, I think, is what is that microcosm of what Atlanta United fans are looking for. A to B, B to C, C to D, bang, goal.
Yeah, the problem is it felt like that was one of the only times we actually saw it in terms of a brilliant ball from Miggy into space for Brooks, who's immediately looking, all right, where are my guys? Who's crashing? Where am I sending this ball? He puts a perfect ball. Latte Lath shows off once again the ability to rise and fire, and puts Atlanta United in the early lead. But with the exception of another one a couple of minutes later that was turned over for offsides, you didn't really see a lot of that after Miami equalized. It felt like you went back to what some of the concern was early on, is that you're not playing wide enough. You're not getting Amador up the left wing and Brooks up the right wing. And it felt like a lot of it was Saba cutting in, where it then gets compacted with Miranchuk, compacted with Latte Lath, and same thing for Miggy. And so we'll see if they can continue to keep it wide. I think that's going to be what's most beneficial to them, especially knowing the ability that Brooks Lennon has sending balls in, and same thing that we've seen from Pedro Amador. But again, it's also still getting used to each other. We talked about it 3 weeks ago, 3 games ago. It was the first time Moyamba was in the midfield, and we'll see if that's a pairing that stays with him and Sleesh. And then 2 games ago, it was the first time that Pedro Amador had returned, and you're working with him as well. And then last night, it was the first time that Brooks Lennon has been. So right now, it feels like you've got your 11, right? And maybe there's changes in the midfield, and we understand that. But it feels like you're as close to your 11 as you've been since the start of the season. And so you've really got to start to build, and again, start to build quickly, because the patience aspect of this, the let the new guys learn each other, that has got to come a lot quicker. We are 4 games into this, which means we're 10 to 12 weeks of training into this, and it has got to showcase itself. And right now, this team's a lot closer to last place in the Eastern Conference than they are to first place.
Yeah, and all you've got to do really this morning is look at the Twitch pitch, and you'll see that folks' patience levels are grinding right now when it comes to what you're seeing, and you're running into now once again another international break where Major League Soccer is playing through, and it will be a challenge for Ronnie Dial and the staff. The Twos, as we mentioned last night, the Twos have the week off after playing last night in Orlando, so you'll get that integration. But it will be a test because you won't have Cobb, you won't have you won't have Gregerson, Sleesh, Almiron, Cobb, or Brennan right now, and others could be added to this whole number. So it will be a test going up to Cincinnati, and Cincinnati's going to be just as shorthanded. They don't have Denke. They're not going to have Miles. They're not going to have problems. They have problems at the back because of red cards. This across the board in Major League Soccer this weekend will be an interesting test for a lot of coaching staffs across the board.
Yeah, and at least like you mentioned this week, it feels like the opponents are being impacted equally. I mean, there were games the last 2 or so years where it's like Atlanta United is missing 7 players, the opponent is down like one guy, and so that has always felt a little unfair. Hopefully, it's a little bit more even come Saturday afternoon. And then the other thing is, look, you've built a lot of depth. We talked about the midfield. You've talked about what we see. Like the growth of Matt Edwards is a huge step in the depth of this roster, and maybe you need him, maybe you don't. And other guys over the course of last season and early stages this season we've seen. So hopefully, at least the midfield will be competitive, and you can kind of piece things together from there. But again, to me, you're probably asking something less going on the road than you would be if it's at home. If we're going to be down players, if we're going to be affected to this amount, at least make that a road game where you'd be happy maybe fighting your way to a draw, as opposed to at home where it feels more like a loss. And certainly, if you could get the 3 and beyond just international call-up, Cincinnati got a red card. They picked up a late injury. They're going to be affected in a magnitude of ways. And they're not right now the team that they have been the past 2 years either. I mean, they're kind of a mirror image a little bit in terms of early season disappointment. They have been good at home, 2 wins, no losses, no draws. But you've scored 4 times, so have they. You've conceded 6 times, so have they. And so you're not too dissimilar. And the hope is that you're on the path upwards and growing, and we'll see that hopefully continue on Saturday afternoon.
No doubt about it. All right, hit the promo for me. What are the plans for Saturday afternoon as you know them right now, sir?
Yeah, no, looking forward to it. It's going to be at 1:30 broadcast for the pregame show, the Five Stripes Countdown. Madison Cruz, Maddie, is going to be joining me in the 92.9 The Game studios. So looking forward to that. We'll keep an eye on the NCAA tournament. We'll make sure you don't miss anything while tuning in for Five Stripes coverage. But looking forward to this one. Feels like another opportunity to go on the road, pick up some points, and hopefully that's what happens. And we'll also have you covered on the back end with the full-time report. So it should be a nice afternoon on Saturday to hopefully pick up 3 in Cincy.
No doubt about it. As always, my friend, great to see you. And I know that as you keep an eye on your camera, as your home camera, as you have on your phone, as you showed me yesterday, you're going to be keeping an eye on somebody who's hopefully just laying in the bed and taking naps. As always, my friend, great to see you.
Yeah, I do spy on Chipper every once in a while. She's always awake. I don't know what's going on with her eyes. She sleeps with her eyes open. So I feel like that's a cat move, but she as a dog does it anyways.
And she knows when you're watching. I think that's the thing. Is like okay, camera's on. I know I've got to keep an eye on.
Well, I'll tell you what. My old camera made a sound. It made a little click when it would turn on, not on, but when it would start to show me. This one, the newer one, doesn't make any noise. It doesn't turn or rotate and move. So the old one, she would like just stare directly at it when I started watching. So that was the problem. This one at least lets a sleeping dog lie, if you will.
Nicely done. All right, we'll see you soon, my friend. Be good.
You got it, John.
There goes Abe. So it's always fun to have Abe dropping by and let everybody know what's on his mind. Like I said, let me know what's on your mind. We'll talk about it. You guys have been talking about it with each other. And like I said, we'll be getting into it as we go. Once again, let me remind you about our high school schedule today. It's Druid Hills and Clarkston, the doubleheader from Adams Stadium. And it'll be the first time that we will have been broadcasting matches from Adams, and it will be Druid Hills and Clarkston, a very, very big DeKalb County matchup, especially on the boys' side. So we'll have it 5:30 and 7:30 from Adams Stadium on our Mixler app and our Mixler channel, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. If you just believe doing things in browsers, don't forget to download the Mixler app. You can listen to it that way. Jason and I will have the call for you there. And so you can do, once again, download the Mixler app. Then when you do, follow Soccer Down Here in SDH2. Then from there, you'll get email notifications as to when we're doing, when we're doing calls and things like that. Then also later on in the week, we are hoping and we are efforting a conversation where we can be at Oconee County and Jefferson. We'll keep you posted on that one. That one is the one where going to Jefferson, it's a great environment for soccer, and it is a facility, for those of you that may not know, it is a facility that was renovated a handful of years ago, and it was what it used to be was the way that it was laid out was, and for those of you who are going to be looking at me, I'm holding my hands up and I'm doing layouts for soccer stadium. And it used to be what everything was football stadium. Football stadium's grass with a crown, all that kind of stuff. Then what they did is they had the practice field for football was off to the side at a 90-degree angle on the other side of the fence line. What they did is they took the practice field for American football and converted that to a one-side venue soccer stadium where they have a big presentation. You come through a dragon's head that's inflatable, all those kinds of things. And so it seats a couple of hundred, which is really cool. And it was, it was cool for us to be up there during the playoffs last year. So we get the opportunity to hopefully go up and catch up with them, Oconee County and Jefferson, on Friday, waiting for some final notes there. But today it is Druid Hills and it is Clarkston at Adams Stadium, 5:30 and 7:30. Jason will be there. Jason and I will be there for that. And so you can listen to it once again on the Mixler app, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. Download the Mixler app. You get an email notification when we have matches coming across the board. So, no, it was fun last week to kind of do a little globetrotting a little bit and go to Hazelhurst for Appling County and Jeff Davis. And then it was fun to go to, literally the grid that we have for this season, it literally is, it's 4 pages. And so it is 4 pages worth of material and locations and desired schedules. And so for those of you who are watching on the video side, here's what it is. This is our grid. The grid for most of our matches is right here. We literally turned page 1 this week. And so, no, it was fun to go to Jeff Davis. It was fun to go to Eagles Landing and see Hampton and Eagles Landing, and then to be able to see GAC and Johnson Gainesville. 2 great matchups. The GAC girls team 15th in the country, and you got to see why. Although if you got to we got to catch up, Maddie and I did, with Coach Graves after the match was over, and it was an opportunity for us to kind of catch up with her. And Maddie's working on another one of our projects here at SDH. And Coach Graves readily admitted that when, if she had the chance to have a conversation with Coach Higgins from Johnson, it was not the final score. The final score was pretty wide ranging. It was 8 on the board for GAC, but it was a game that she admitted was an absolute grinder. The score does not dictate the actual elements of the match. And so for her to be able to, to say that about a Johnson Gainesville side going up against the number 15 team in the country, and there are two players specifically for GAC that you need to keep an eye on, and they are. Hang on, I want to grab my email just so I can make sure that I let you know who it is. But you have one center back who is heading to one of the service academies. And so it was really fun to be able to catch up that way and look at them. It was, you had Margot Pritchard, who's a junior junior midfielder and forward, and she would play either at the back line and the back line of four. She would advance forward, and she became a problem on set pieces for Johnson. Or Kelsey Flood, one of the defensive center back co-captains. And those two, for anybody who's going to be going up against GAC, when they combined on a set piece where you took advantage of the height advantage that GAC had going up against Johnson Gainesville. And Coach Graves said, look, that was the first time we were able to do that all season long. And Kelsey Flood, by the way, I'm surprised that Tim Hardy, the American football coach there at GAC, didn't have the druthers to go and catch up and knock on Coach Graves' door and see if that he could use Kelsey Flood on kickoffs or on PATs or field goals. That's how much of a right leg she has. But GAC, it was great to see them. Top 15 in the country. We got to see why on the girls' side. Really competitive boys match as well. Jason got to call that. But yeah, so later today, it is going to be Druid Hills and Clarkston in DeKalb County. And like I said, we're efforting the matchup in Jefferson on Friday with Oconee County. So we'll be catching you up with that. All right. That was something akin to an opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. One of the other things that I wanted to bring up with opening kickoff and Kickoff Coffee, we mentioned kind of sort of the fans at the end of the match at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I don't think necessarily it's going to go to the end of the way that it was for one match in particular in League 1 this past weekend. And it was just insane when you saw this. But I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to see this news that came out yesterday as well while we were getting ready for the matchup with Inter Miami. It was a matchup in Ligue 1, the French league, Montpellier and Saint-Etienne. Abandoned with less than 30 to go when a fire broke out in the stands after flares were thrown by the fans. Flares. Montpellier down 2-0. TV footage said black smoke coming from the fire. So that was in it. So if I remember correctly, black smoke means that it is toward the peak of its burning ability. If it gets to the grays and the whites, that means that the flame itself or the fire itself is putting itself out, or there just isn't enough fuel for it to continue, or it's being doused. Local media reported you had one person evacuated, players from both teams sent back to locker rooms. Montpellier fans trashed seats in the stands. Fire was extinguished. The game didn't start because of security concerns. Now Montpellier could be facing a rather large penalty. And there's this one still from Getty that literally looks like someone took like something akin to a mini dumpster and just kind of like started throwing stuff into it. And I don't know if that's what this is, but that's what it looks like. It looks like somebody had a rather large rectangular box and just started throwing stuff into it and created a fire. So the way that this was, Saint-Etienne supporters have been banned by French authorities from traveling to Montpellier because of a high risk of violence. And so Saint-Etienne said they were opposing, as a club, a proposal from the French government to disband their main groups of supporters. The Magic fans and the Green Angels. And by the way, yes, I am wearing green today. So, anybody who sees me, there's green right here. Magic fans and Green Angels, created about 30 years ago, complained the government plans are politically driven and said they won't help fight hooliganism in stadiums. That's the first problem. Club sided with the fans, said it opposes the government's planned measure, quote, deeming it disproportionate and ineffective in the fight against violence and discrimination in stadiums. Saint-Etienne dominated French soccer in the 60s and 70s. Ahead of the Montpellier match, French authorities justified their decision to ban the away fans, saying Saint-Etienne's travels are often marred by public order disturbances due to the violent behavior of certain supporters or individuals claiming to be supporters of this team, end quote. Noted that some Montpellier fans are also prone to violence. Last year, November, before a game between the two clubs in Saint-Etienne, you had a brawl that took place with 260 Montpellier fans, some equipped with weapons, clashed in the streets with 300 to 400 Saint-Etienne supporters. Montpellier have lost their last 6, winning only 4 all year. 18th place after 25 matches, 6 adrift of the relegation spot. Saint-Etienne are 1 place higher at 20. So you have 2 teams that probably could be relegated by the time they were done. So the other thing is just like literally, You read this copy, and once again, this is news copy, so this is like AP or AFP or something like that. Just it is listed as ESPN News Services. So you have in this copy the club not happy with the league, and so not happy with the government. Yet you don't have a solution or a counter proposal from the club. They just say that they're mad. Club's like, no, we're not gonna. And the only thing missing is the stomping of the feet, But you don't have any kind of counter proposal. French government says A, club says B, and there's no. It's like, well, we could do this or we could do this. At least through early reports, there is no report of any kind of a counter proposal for fandom involving this particular club in Ligue 1. French government's mad. Club's mad at French government. No solution offered by club or no alternative offered by club, just no and stomping of feet. And so you had a fire in the stands at a stadium and match was abandoned. So information from the AP and Reuters as well. So yeah, that was the other one of the other elements that came through this week. And so yay. So just, we talk about, and I know by comparison, it's something that's rare here when you have fans do things. I mean, we've had instances in the past where fans have thrown stuff at players and not at officials. But don't do it. Spread the word and don't do it. It's just, look, the 17s over 7+ seasons, you have shown yourself to be incredibly passionate and incredibly, you back your club as you should, like nobody's business. Last night was another example of that when you go up against the top dog in the East and you hold yourself right there with them for 90 minutes. But at the end of it all, if the result doesn't go your way, and I know this is not reflective of the majority, this is an angry minority at the time in an event. Do not be surprised if the club and or Mercedes-Benz Stadium tries to figure out who it was, looking through technology, looking at tapes and things like that. But don't do it. Set yourself to a higher standard. Hold yourself to the standard that you've already set. The fans that are feeling compelled to have that kind of an outburst, they should know better. They should do better. But they also should not fall from repercussion if they're found out to have done what was done toward officiating last night. You don't do that. You're a fan. I know you're a fan. But that does not, once again, I would play the Roy Kent speech if it would make us feel any better. Just because you buy a ticket doesn't mean that you can say any kind of abusive ish you want. Doesn't mean that you can grab whatever it was that you purchased and hurl it at an official down at field level. And I'm not even going to joke about it. There's an easy joke in there, and it's a Falcons joke, and I'm not going to make it because you don't do it. You don't do those kinds of things. Don't do it. Don't do it. And if you're in and around any individuals that want to do those kinds of things, tell them not to do it and explain why. And I know that if you have to explain the why, then that's a long road for that individual to understand the deal. But don't throw things onto the field. Don't do anything to the building. Don't do anything to express your displeasure other than yell, scream, rant, rave, come on the show, go on the Twitch pitch on a Monday, 5 days a week when we do the show. That's what we're here for. To have these kinds of discussions. We're not here to throw things at people. And I know that the plus ones here, you guys set examples for everybody else. All of the A-listers and everybody who's been here since absolute beginning, you guys set examples for others. I know you do that. So if you happen to see anybody trying to do this kind of silliness, explain to them, if it needs to be explained, why what they are thinking about doing is wrong. Other than the whole criminal charge thing and being better than other fans in other places. Don't do it. Just don't. It's frustrating to see those kinds of things come to pass. But like I said, and I think that what it also does is it serves as a warning sign and just as a reminder about who we are, what we can be, what we can do, those kinds of things. Continue to be the great examples that you are. Rub off on others. Be there for others. And remind everyone around you that this is how things are supposed to be. Show your love and the support of the game with class. Have it rub off on others. And if you have to explain to somebody why something isn't cool, explain it, and hopefully the light will come on and they'll understand why. Throwing things at officials is bad. Don't do it. It's unacceptable. Don't do it. Period. But like I said, all of the A-listers and the plus ones here, I know that you guys set tremendous examples as fans. And if you're not hungry or thirsty and you have something that's unfinished at the end of the day and you're frustrated at an official or a player, just set it down. Put it in the recycle bin. Put it in the compost bins as you're leaving the building. It's not meant to be a projectile to throw at somebody. Rant over for the moment. So, okay, let me say hi to everybody. Bart Keel is going to join us in about 10 minutes. So let's see. Morning, Abby. Morning, Alex. Morning, Pars. Pars, we will discuss the non-existent Miami handball. In looking, and I've got to go look at video and look at, and this is the problem. And I'll go back and watch the match and watch it from a TV perspective because I got to see it from in-house production and Apple TV. I want to go back and see what people are I want to see the context of the play. I want to see the play in full. I know that we can sit there and look at stills and go, well, yes, no, maybe. But I want to go back and look at the video and the context of the game in and of itself when it happened. Because the stills and Pars for the handball that he's referring to, I want to say it was Noah Allen inside the 18. There's a still that is out involving Noah Allen, and it appears that Allen is making hand contact with the ball. I want to say that previously and from a different angle, it's not quite 180 degrees, but it's still on that same plane. You do see Noah Allen with his arm tucked in. And so that was, I've got to go back and look at that. I have to go back and look at where Noah Allen's arm was when contact was initially made, because then there is a recoil function. Traditionally, like when something hits you in the arm and you go, ow, like that. So I want to go back and I want to look at the Noah Allen handball because, like I said, I think initially it was arm was attached to the body, and then when the initial contact is made, I don't know if there was double contact or anything like that as the arm came back out. But I want to say initial contact with Noah Allen was here. I want to go back and look at that. And then there was another incident involving Jordi Alba. And Jordi Alba was in a foul mood yesterday. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he didn't sleep at a Holiday Inn or what. But Jordi Alba was not in a pleasant frame of mind. And it might have been just, being in the building and doing whatever and remembering what happened last year or what. But there was once again a moment involving Jordi Alba, and his hands were in a position, and this is once again just looking at a still photo, a still frame of video, where Jordi Alba's hand was in a position with an opposing player where it's not supposed to be. And I want to see the video of that instead of just a still, because like I said, we can sit there and go, okay, well, that's not supposed to be the way it's supposed to be, and we can sit there and we can all agree and go, yeah, no, I agree. But I want to look at the context of these moments involving, I want to look at, so Pars, which one, which event was on the Atlanta United FC fans page. So if anybody can find links, then I'll click on links and then we can walk through it as we'll do on Mondays and Tuesdays. We'll walk through these kinds of things. And we also will hold judgment until anything from disciplinary committee or anything like that comes out later in the week. So we'll hang on to that and see what's on Disco and all of that. So, but yeah, so if you can find it and put it in the Twitch pitch so I can link to it and we can walk through it, that'd be great. Because, like I said, going off of stills is one thing. Finding the actual video in and of itself is something else. And I want to look at video within context of an event where, like I said, Noah Allen, if the hand's at the body and it hits the arm and then it bounces off, then I would say no. Jordi Alba, like I said, I want to look at video, and I want to see if there is anything else attached to context of a particular event involving Jordi Alba. Okay, thank you. Sent the link on the Discord. All right, so hang on. Okay, so open link in new tab. So let me see what we have here. So thank you, Pars. All right, so Atlanta United's in one of the fan groups, and I'm buzzing down and through. Do I not have permission? Oh, I've got to join the group. Okay. So, yeah, that's my problem. Is that I'm not a part of the group, so I can't click on it. Okay, so you sent the Discord. See, that's my problem is I don't think I'm not a part of the fans page. So, yeah, that's where I am. I'm not a part of the fans page. I'm feeling left out. Anyway. Okay. And to Abby's point, should have been more yellows. Well, and this is why Abby mentioning their players complaining, I wanted to discuss the mass confrontation rule and the new rule involving only the captain being engaged with the center ref. Because and this is I want to walk through it and get into this rule specifically and go through the letter of the laws of the game. I want to go through it and then discuss the notion of, well, do you have to or can you manage it? That's the biggest thing. So that is the other element in this with all of these things. And so so there are a couple of things that I do want to discuss from an officiating perspective, and we can roundly apply it to what we saw yesterday, just for education and edification. So that's why I wanted to have Bart to come in and discuss a couple of things. But yeah, and I mean, when you look at the numbers from yesterday, when it comes to the yellows and such, and the fouls and such, the one I was looking at numbers after the match, and I was like, really? The numbers when it came to statistics: 16 fouls on Atlanta United compared to 7 for Messi and friends. 16-7. And I think that in instances with Messi and friends, 16-7. 16-7. But at the same time, I will trim that number. How much of those were professional fouls, trying to make sure that Messi and friends did not advance the ball and get a run going. That I'm fine with. So I feel like I'm going to have to sit here and legitimately rewatch the match from beginning to end, slow it down, take notes, and have more to talk about tomorrow. But 16-7. I know that there were a couple of professional fouls in there. I know that one of them was a receipt by Miggy to Jordi Alba, as it should have been. Like I said, Jordi Alba was running hot. And so I don't know when it comes to persistent infringement, when it comes to all these different things, where some center refs are coming from. And actually, let me see if I can find the numbers really quickly for pro. And I don't want assignments, mind you, but I'll start here. I want to find, I think it was FB Ref. So FB Ref, MLS Ref foul numbers. I think it was FB Ref that had them posted. So just to find out where referee stats, Major League Soccer stats, miscellaneous stats. No, it was ref stats. Here we go. Okay, so it wasn't pro. All right, so pro referees. So now let's see if referee stats, select month, well, okay, so March of 25. No, I don't want the news archive. I want the ref stats is what I want. Go back, give me the ref stats. Officials, assignments, news, education, definitive angle, info, laws of the game, education. Where are the numbers? Officials, awards, definitive angles. All right, so ref stats. Okay, so ref stats traditionally, how far back are we going here? So if I hit, let me see if I, like I said, and I'm walking through what we're staring at here. So this is probably last year's numbers. So Drew Fisher, at one point last year, 3.36 yellows a game, 310 fouls awarded through 14 matches at one point last year, 14 into 310. That's about his average. So 14 into 31 is 228. Yeah, so it's 22. So it was right on his average for number of fouls called. But the disparaging, the iniquity, disparaging numbers, or the difference in the numbers. Difference in the numbers is a bit stark. But like I said, I'll go back and look and see. But like I said, there were a couple of receipts. There were a couple of professional fouls. That I'm fine with. But the 23 is right in Drew Fisher's wheelhouse. That's about average for him. So we'll see what's there. Pars, first half, 4 seconds later, same's done to Miami. They get the call. Like I said, I'll go back and look, and I will see where all of these, where the fouling and the disparagement is in the numbers and all those kinds of things. So, inconsistency, it does drive people nuts. And so, Abby, scary flight returning home. Just glad you're back. 2.5 hours. Good thing you hadn't had breakfast. I'm guessing there was a lot of whoop-de-doos that were figured out on the drive back on the flight home. But yeah, so consistent thing when teams play them. Pars, it's like morning Lockville. What lines are possible this coming weekend? Let's see. So, and this is probably something that we could do a deep dive today and tomorrow. So you're looking at Amador. You have Derek Williams. Gregerson is out. You'd have Brooks. So you're looking at something at the back to fill in the Steon Gregerson position. You have to monitor the health of Mateus Click. Muyumba will be with you. Jay Fortune will be with you. So your midfield will be fairly solid. We got to check and see if Miranchuk is out for international duty. Saba is out. So you might see Keman Togashi. Shande, you got to keep an eye on Jamal's injury. And so you could be looking at a front line of Shande, Togashi, maybe Jamal. And then you're going up against the back line for Cincinnati that is injured, Miles got pulled after 30 minutes. Teenage Adibi, his replacement, is out on international duty. Then you had another red card. Then you had Kevin Dinkay, who is going to be out because of international duty. We'll try and catch up with Laurel Failer this week and get the 4-1-1 on Cincinnati, but that's the early returns as we workshop through it. Okay, hour number 2. So it's time for Bart. And there were a couple of things that I wanted to get into with Bart as we bring Bart in. Bart's decked out in the green. But see now, but Bart, you have a pitch behind you in your Lego stadium backdrop. I think that you probably would have sufficed in this particular environment.
Well, but I would have been off camera for the rest of the day and don't want to get pinched by a leprechaun.
But who's gonna know if
The
you're
leprechauns, John?
That's true.
Because you seen the leprechaun say, "Yeah."
Yeah,
It
exactly.
is the official anniversary of that. But
Yeah.
John, let's get more talking about more important things.
Oh, I was going to say, so the SO wouldn't be there to pinch you if you weren't going to be wearing
Actually,
green?
he already got pinched this morning because he's not wearing green. But granted,
Oh, there you go. All right. So
granted, he hasn't gotten out of bed yet because that's the life of a telehealth worker where they don't have appointments on Monday morning. Must be
nice. That's strong. So what's on your mind to start?
Les Mis.
Yes. Yes.
John, it would be really cool if the team that I spend a lot of money supporting would score goals consistent with the money that they've spent.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. Yeah, and you're
yeah.
not alone in that assessment. You're not alone there.
I know we talked about this Friday. This is my just overarching Atlanta United take, and I heard you talking about the Cincinnati match. Is just that. Yes, it's early, but it is also way too early to be dropping points and then having to chase points. And that's kind of the issue that I'm seeing with this team right now is that we can talk about, oh, they're just not in sync. They need time to catch their time to get the momentum with each other, time to get used to each other, all these things. And that is valid. Unfortunately, the schedule did not afford you
validity
that time.
Yeah.
And the reality is your one win and your best performance, and albeit in that best performance you still conceded a couple goals, is against a team that's not great. And do you expect the team to get better? Yeah, they should. The talent on the field should get better, but I think Diala's in this catch-22 of, do I change something just to like give the players maybe something different, or do I keep it the same because we need to keep it the same so the players can continue to get used to each other and playing with each other?
No,
it is a conundrum right now for Atlanta United, but winless in 3 is not ever something that we need to see this club do again. And
no, I know. And trust me, I see everything that comes across, and trust me, I see everything that comes across in the Twitch pitch. I see everything that goes on social media, and so I understand where everybody's coming from in all of this. But coming into this week, Ronnie Dyla is not going to have much of a choice.
And that is real. That might be the saving grace, is Dyla might have to tweak a few things to get. I mean, granted, what is he going to tweak? Because the tweaks are going to be replacing players, unfortunately.
Well, but I mean, by default, I think that is a tweak because once again, you're going to have Amador, you're going to have Derek, you're going to have Brooks. So that's 3 of your 4. Then you have to figure out what you want to do at center back. Do you just go with 3 at the back and then 5 in the midfield? You have to figure out Click and his health. You've got. I mean, you figure it's going to be Jay and Muyumba as a part of your midfield. And then, like I said, your front line could end up, depending on health, it could be some combination of, to start, it could be Togashi and Shande and Jamal, depending on Jamal's health. So there's some things that you can look at here, and it would give you a different perspective within the system that you're trying to implement.
I want to run the numbers, but I feel like we haven't scored a goal without we've scored 1 goal without Cliche on the field.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to think when he got taken off in that Montreal game.
Well, then let's go back and look. Sure.
Because I need to go look. But I was having this thought in bed last night. I was like, Mateusz Klick hasn't been on the field the last few games. Because of, I think now it's an injury, but at first it was like he caught the plague of some sort.
Yeah, he
Poor dude.
did catch a nasty bit of the influenza, but
And so that probably did not help anything else.
it was 2 of the 3 because he came off in the 82nd, and then Mosqueda hit the bomb in the 80th.
Okay.
So the 2 latte lot goals against Montreal. If you're looking,
we're with Click on the
we're
field.
with Click
Okay.
on the field. Yeah, 60
And
touches in that game, 46 of 55,
Yeah.
3 of 6 on long balls, 2 for 4 on ground duels. Fouled once, 1 pick, 1 dribble pass. But yeah, two of the goals against Montreal were with Click on the field.
It's just very apparent that he was very important to not just ball recovery, but also a lot of ball progression. But I'm sure everyone wants to talk about the refereeing from last night.
So get healthy, man. That's where Mateus Click. Just get healthy. Well, and
he's not going to play this international break, correct? I don't think so.
As far as I know, I
better not. He's hurt.
Well, but I mean, if he's ill, then it's kind of counterintuitive for him to go in the first place.
I don't think he will. But
so, like I said, it'd probably end up being some combination of Click, depending on health and minutes, to go with Muyumba and Jay Fortune, and you're looking at that. So, but what I want to do is, instead of, and I'll go back and look at the match in and of itself, but what I want to do is, when we have these moments that we want to talk about from a fan perspective, I want you to look at it from a refereeing perspective to help folks understand rules of engagement, what refs are going through in these conversations, all of that. It's like we can, and I'll go ahead and use the word on a Monday. We can bitch all day long about it.
You can.
But what I want to do is I want to walk through the laws of the game, and I want folks to understand what refs and officials are looking at in these particular situations. So let's go to the Noah Allen play and discuss handball, what's a handball, what's not, incidental contact, secondary contact, all those kinds of things. So I don't know if
I got news for you. I'm an Arsenal fan, and I'm still confused what a handball is because I thought Cucurella should have got a handball for what he did yesterday. So.
And this is like I said, there was some stuff that happened. There was some stuff that happened in the Premier League. That walks us through this as well. So once again, the still that is making the rounds, and like I said, and
I haven't seen this still, so let me see if I can find it real quick.
So Pars, if you're also a part of the Atlanta United fan Facebook group, I think that.
Oh, great! I'm probably sure I am, and I don't actually go in there. Sorry for anyone who is. It's just a lot.
So it is on Facebook. Pars did the public service. Atlanta United FC fans.
Yeah, I'm a part of that group.
Okay, so go in there, and it should be posted, and you're going to have to walk me through it, because Abby says it looks like the hand wasn't hit and it wasn't tucked. And like I said, I'm flying blind on this because I'm not a member of that group, and I probably should be, just for edification's sake. So the still that has been floated out with Noah Allen, the one that I saw is the one.
So I'm still looking at, I'm looking at this, I think, right now. There's one angle that is very inconclusive.
Yeah.
And that's not going to help with the VAR thing.
Right. And so the one angle I think that I'm looking at is the
There's one. Yeah. Oh, John, this is tough. And this is one of those where, like, I'll say this. In the moment, I couldn't see it because my seats were on the opposite side of the field.
Yeah.
From where this happened. I'm in 118. So literally like a diagonal view. So I'm looking through a lot of things.
Right.
I did not think that this was, I would not have been able to see if this was a handball in real action. So I am going off of video review.
Okay.
And
so if you are VAR, sir.
Right. Looking at VAR, I do have to say, I don't think this is one of those clear and obvious errors, because one of the things we are looking at is it in a natural position? Now, one hand is tucked up here, one hand is kind of out, but this is where we get into the tough of like, well, what is natural, right? Because I think we all agree that putting your hands behind your back and putting them, that is not natural.
No.
Despite what,
handcuffing yourself is not natural. No.
Yeah. Handcuffing yourself is not natural, unless you're into that, in which case, good for you. But there is a level of, we talk about the natural silhouette, right?
Yeah.
The silhouette of the body. And again, this is what is natural. And having your arms by your side when you're playing soccer, um, and in this case, jumping, I understand why this wasn't called. I truly do, because I think in the moment, had it been called, maybe you probably don't get. If they call it in the moment, I don't know if this is overturned, because again, I don't know if that would have been clear and obvious that it wasn't a handball. But unfortunately, then with the clear and obvious standard, it's not clear and obvious that this was a missed handball.
Yeah.
Because again, just hitting the hand is not an infraction. There are standards we need to meet, and one of those is an unnatural position of the arm. You can argue if it's natural or unnatural. I think if you're arguing that, then it's not clear and obvious.
Right. And so because there is the idea of protecting yourself from injury while you're in play.
Absolutely. And this is something that obviously I deal with on, John, I did 4 U10 games on Saturday. So protecting yourself from a handball takes on a whole new level at that age.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But it does need to be something you think about, because it's, I do not think this was a protecting yourself, because the one arm that was up there was not what I think the ball hit. So for me, we're not worried about that. We're still just looking about normal position of arms and natural. But yes, when you're talking about protecting yourself, keeping your arms around your chest over other parts of your body that need to be protected. Obviously, we see this a lot in a wall for a free kick, where the referee will go up and very specifically say, like, hey, face, chest, private parts, protect those. It's fine. Anything outside of that is not going to be allowed. Again, I don't think this was that type of situation. I just think that when you look at, was this a clear and obvious error to not call a handball?
Mhm.
I think if VAR were to have stepped in, it probably would have been harsh, but we've seen that happen before. And that's, I think, the frustrating part for Atlanta United fans, is when you seemingly, for the rest of the match, were getting shafted by a referee who decided that he was going to tackle the Trump tariff on his own right. That is frustrating. That was frustrating. Is that it did seem like, it clearly hits his hand, right? I think that's the thing that we're all looking at, is like, well, it hit his hand. What are you talking about? Is it in the natural silhouette of the body? Maybe not. Is it a natural position? I kind of think it's a little more natural than what people want to give it credit for. That said, as I said at the beginning and now, had this been called a handball in the moment, I don't know if it would have been overturned, because again, what is the clear and obvious line? I don't know if that error was clear and obvious.
Yeah. So that's why you bring that one up. And then there is another Zapruder like still floating out about contact with one player grabbing another player in a part of the body that you're not supposed to.
I saw this. That was,
But like I said, I want to see video length. I don't
yeah.
want to see just a still Zapruder like sitting there going, okay, you're not supposed to do that.
That is something that Disco may have a look at for sure. This seems to be, again, this is a trend for Miami. They love mass confrontations. John, I didn't know that this was a roster mechanism in MLS, but apparently you can have up to 17 captains listed as well.
Yes. And that's the next topic after this.
But I think that goes into they kind of come together, is why does Miami always happen to have 27 players around a referee at any given moment? And this is another one of those instances where, if I'm trying to place this right, it was not necessarily a thing that needed to be a mass confrontation, yet here it is. But because everything Miami does or has happened to them is something of the greatest aggrievement,
Of course.
it turns into that. And so Jordi Alba's hand somehow ends up, for however long, in and around the neck of, was it Mascara? I think that I saw, whoever it was. And no, Schließ, who, that to me, I'm with you. I need to see an actual video. I don't know what VAR was looking at, if they did look at this or not. I'm sure there were reviews of something, but it just is. It didn't seem like, even with the still photo, I'm sorry, it didn't look like it was.
Yeah.
anything violent conduct related.
Right. So, like I said, you've got to. I want to look at the entire video, and I know that Dallas, I'm sure, has different angles and such, and that they can request them if they wish.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Miami gets. Well, it would surprise me. It should that Miami gets a letter in the mail tomorrow about, well, probably Wednesday because it happens on it, about some mass confrontation situations, because this has become a trend for them. And all right, John, we're blowing. They're big boys. They need to put their damn big boy pants on and stop bitching about everything. I mean, it seriously. Luis Suarez would complain with a damn peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah, and the peanut butter sandwich would sit there, and he'd complain about the fact that there's no jelly on it, or it's the wrong jelly. I get that. So now here's the rule as it was stated this season in Major League Soccer, and there are a couple of different points that I want to walk through here.
Let's go to it.
Only the captain, and you can go to competition guidelines and read this yourself should you feel so inclined, but I'm going to read it here so you don't have to. After key decisions, only capital O, the captain, capital C, should approach the referee and in a respectful manner. If multiple players approach the referee after a key decision, the referee will blow the whistle, step back, and gesture that only capital O, the captain, capital C, is permitted to communicate with the referee. In the event the captain is the goalkeeper, a vice captain may be nominated prior to the match, would be identified by a second armband. Once the signal is made, all other players should remain at least 4 meters from the referee. So that's 8.8.
Yeah.
I think it's 8.8.
Yeah.
Something. A player who is not the captain or designated vice captain who enters this space will be issued a yellow card for dissent by action. If more than one player from a team enters the captain-only zone, the captain-only zone is for loading and unloading of captains. At least one player must be issued a yellow card. This will usually be the first unauthorized player to enter the zone, or the player whose approach is the most aggressive. Referees will still be expected to issue yellow cards to any player, including the captain, for clear examples of dissent. So that is your only capital O, the capital C captain rule here in Major League Soccer.
Yeah, and I think there are a couple things to kind of get into that. First, it's like, obviously the player who got fouled or did the fouling, like, look, they're going to have their moment to say what they need to say, and needs to be in still a respectful manner. But like, we get that, right? Like, if I get fouled and I think it probably should be more than a yellow card, I'm going to go, ref. If I feel like I get fouled and the referee doesn't call it, then I'm going to have my moment, ref. Or if I do the fouling and I don't think it's foul, ref. That, okay, move on.
Yes.
But this is talking about once that moment has passed, which again for Miami seems to go on for at least a good 27 seconds. I mean, I'm sorry. This is becoming an issue that the league has to grow some balls to deal with. I'm sorry. They just do, because what has happened with Miami in every single match is that they have multiple players who are neither captain nor vice captain on top of the captain and vice captain, somehow crowding the referee. And it is something that is not necessarily influencing the referee's decision in that moment, but it can prevent them from refereeing the game in a proper manner in that moment, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it absolutely does. So now my subsequent point in this kind of officiating, where you have mass confrontation, yet you have the halo available to you. Drew Fisher in this particular match, and like I said, and we can go back and look.
Drew Fisher made me really mad this match, John. There were multiple times. I counted. This was in the 80th minute, I think. Luis Suarez was yelling at him because, as Luis Suarez does, because as Abel points out on the Twitch pitch, they've been doing this forever. He's yelling at Drew Fisher, and Drew Fisher waves him off, not once, not twice, but 3 times in the span of his rant. Book him, Dano. What are we doing here? He's not listening to you. Give him a damn yellow card. And that, again, this is the issue with, you have the law, you have the rule, apply it. Miami, Suarez, Alba, Busquets, Messi, they are not above that. They are not above being reprimanded for acting like petulant children when they act like petulant children from minute 1 to minute 97. They don't come out of halftime at the right time. They take too long to get off the field off of a sub, and there's no consequence for that, by the way. That happened twice where they took 15 seconds to leave the field after a sub, which Miggy took, 9.5 seconds somehow and got punished for it. So
Yeah.
this is an MLS problem. You have to apply the laws and your competition rules to Miami. And I know you refuse to because they have 17 designated players somehow, and you let that slide. So you let that slide. You let your roster mechanism slide. You let your stadium situation slide. You let captains slide. Everything they get, and they don't deserve it because they're already going to win. Miami was going to probably win that game, whether they were crowding the referee with 7 guys off the bench plus all 11 on the field or not. That was going to Miami's probably going to win most of these games they play. But the fact that they still get every extra benefit is an asinine and unfair position from this league.
Soccer for You is POD's Bard. Well, until you end up with the next paragraph. Soccer for You is POD's Bard Keeler at Bartimus Prime 19, hanging out with us, doing cards and calls and reffing down here and things. So then let me ask you this, and so I'm going to let me play the flip side here. Let me go devil's advocate. If Drew Fisher chooses not to implement the halo of solitude and just let things are and let players blow off steam, does he have that prerogative? Can he just sit there and go, it's like, look, treat it as an idea instead of a bylaw? Is that just something you can sit there and go, I can handle it, I'm a big boy, and they can just I'll let them blow off steam and not worry about it? He chose not to.
He chose not to.
He chose not to implement that rule.
Yeah, he chose not to.
Soccer in this match.
He's walking around with a FIFA badge on his chest, so I guess that means he can handle it. That's up to him. But again, the problem is that those types of things, that would be like me as a referee going, I'm not really applying the offside law today.
Okay.
Or a better example would be, and we do this as referees. So I'll give you a great example, John. A lot of preseason tournaments, because they still work in the draconian rules of Georgia soccer substitutions, say that you can only sub on your possession throw-in, a goal kick after a goal, or if someone's injured. Because for some reason, someone back in the 90s decided they were going to waste time, and someone got mad because they lost a game because someone subbed a lot. Whatever the reason is, ask Jason. I'm sure he knows.
Yeah.
That wasn't calling Jason old. It's just that he
knows. It's just the knowledge base that he has. Yes.
But that damn sub rule, every referee I work with thinks it's the dumbest thing ever. Right. So a lot of times when we have these preseason tournaments where the goal is for players to play soccer, John, not stand on the sideline, we will often bend the rule to say, look, if you have both teams up there subbing and the ball goes out for a throw in, both teams can sub. Why are we letting one team sub? Because it happens to be their possession, but the other players still have to stand. And these are 12-year-olds. They don't know. In a lot of those cases, we'll say, look, both of y'all, come on. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
That is to make the game better. What about this decision from Drew Fisher is making the game better? That's the question you need to ask yourself, John, is this making the game better?
There you go.
When we bend those rules, it's meant to do it so that the spirit of the game continues and we're being fair.
And then you get into spirit of the game and making things fair involving what we saw yesterday. So we mentioned, like I said, we mentioned the rule book having its flexible moments. It's not a hardcover.
Granted, the rule book now is not flexible because it's just all on
on your phone.
It's all on an app or on the computer. I don't think I've got an actual rule book since I started refereeing again in 2015.
I'm going to say you don't have an actual book.
They don't give them to us anymore. They may when you do the initial course. I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't been part of that in a very long time.
It's just kind of over there. Now, the other element that I want, did I miss anything from applying rules and Drew Fisher? That
No, we should just start applying the ball in the back of the net. I think that would solve a lot of our problems.
well, yeah, then it would keep Leo Campana from pushing Brad Gazan into the back of the net and not getting
Yeah.
a card
Oh, no.
for Campana or Luis Suarez. The other one that I wanted to discuss with you this week has to do with calling a penalty and the, if you want to call it, professional savviness of an attacking player stepping in front of a defender who is marking them
Yep.
on the inside shoulder. And we saw this with Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting in the Purple Team versus Red Bulls, and we also saw it in Premier League this past week. I want to say it was Fulham and Spurs, if memory serves.
It was, and I think this is actually a great juxtaposition of the two instances and how they do differ.
Yeah, and then there's also the late pen with St. Louis and Seattle. That
Yeah.
the late
So I think your question, John, is about position and ball control.
correct, and then you have in the instance in Red Bulls and Purple Team, defender is on the inside shoulder closest to goal. Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting is trying to make the turn to come inside and improve his angle inside the 18. Takes an intentional step with his right in his stride, cuts across the defender. Robin Janssen, I believe, has no choice but to make contact with Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting as he's turning to the inside, and that's eventually called a penalty.
Yeah. This is one of those instances where Choupo-Moting got position because he was in front, technically. They weren't they were basically even when it came to their body positions to me on the field. It's not like Janssen body was in front of Moting, right? I don't think that was the positioning. It was pretty even. Choupo-Moting, I think Janssen may have had the inside edge.
Yeah.
Fair, but was not in control of the ball by any stretch, right? That you can't say that he had control of the ball. And so at that point, it's not like that is his ball, right? So Choupo-Moting is allowed to make a play for it. He puts his foot out and gets to the ball first, if you will. He's in that position before Janssen is. Janssen kicks him, and it becomes a penalty. The opposite, I think, was true for the Spurs Fulham match, where the attacker did not get to the ball or the position first. And while there may have been some harder contact than you would like by the defender had established that position and pitch control around the ball. Again, I don't think either player had control of the ball, right? They're not in possession, but they're in control of that space around it. And that's kind of where we're looking at.
For those not familiar with it, it was the Bossy Bergvall challenge where the decision was no penalty in the Premier League with Spurs and Fulham, yet it ended up being a penalty involving the Purple Team and Red Bulls. And so that was why you literally see the same thing happen twice, and the monitoring is different in each particular situation. That was why I wanted to bring that one up.
It's a great question.
So, but that's why we have you here, so we can discuss these things. And then there was late in St. Louis and Seattle. I think it was the Ross Smith play late. And let me see if I can find it quickly. So Seattle, St. Louis penalty, and it was it ended up working close to an equalizer. If that had come to pass, it would have been an equalizer here. So let me see if I can. Like I said,
Seattle, St. Louis.
Yeah, Seattle and St. Louis late. It was 1-0, and there was a chance for a penalty call late. I think it was on the Ross Smith play, and it was wiped off the board. So that's where I'm hunting here. And of course, now I can't. When I want to find it, I can't find the damn thing. So let me see. Ross Smith, if I could spell it.
I'm looking. I found it on YouTube. Cool. So I'm gonna watch this and try to watch this in live action, and then
watch it in real time, and for the rest of us, sir.
All right, so it's He goes down. Penalty called.
Uh-huh.
It was it Leyva? Yeah, he tries to do a little Maradona turn, runs into the defender,
Mm-hmm.
and oh, who's this referee? I know him very well.
Hang on. I'll let you know. I'll get there.
I can't remember his name, but his
I'll
face.
get there.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, we're going through the VAR check.
All right.
Oh, are they maybe checking I think they overturned this for maybe a handball? I think that was the overturn. Let's see if they did it. If not,
Yeah,
his
because it
arm is
would've
down by the yeah, that would be unnatural. A little unnatural.
okay. So you have a little unnatural there with the hand. And so once again, you get into Mark Cucurella, you get into
Yeah.
it's Fotis Bazakis who is in the middle.
Thank you. I was like, I can't remember his name, but it is Pazakis. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Fotis
they called it no penalty because Vargas. It was a handball.
Okay.
That was why they called no penalty. It wasn't. It seemed like it wasn't the foul being called or not called. But Vargas, when the ball was kind of won by a defender, he poked it away. Vargas's arm was very far down. While you are allowed to use the arm to brace yourself when you're on the ground,
Mhm.
reaching out to stop the ball, and then more importantly, retain possession like that is going to get you in trouble with the handball, especially in the penalty area. It's not. I'm saying this, but it's not the exact law.
Mhm.
But go with me on the theory of you're not allowed to have a handball,
Yeah.
intentional or unintentional, that leads directly to your own scoring opportunity, right? You're not going to this is one of those well, yeah, you're going to have a little stricter policy on what is or isn't a handball on an attacking player who then gets a penalty kick.
Right.
And this looked like very much a handball because his arm is definitely outside of the silhouette of his body. Again, he's not on the ground, so you don't get to use your arm as a brace for that, especially when you're very much in control of your body, trying to dribble forward. Touches his hand, he keeps possession, he goes on to win a penalty kick. I understand why this was overcalled. Overturned.
Yeah, 92nd minute of the 6th. Once again, initially, Bazakis awards a PK. Obed Vargas had fouled Kessler. Overturned by VAR. Vargas touched the ball with his hand before he was fouled. So
Correct.
So that you go back, and that's the other element in this is that you go backward and you navigate multiple instances by going back to the beginning of the play. You can't just say, well, this happened last, therefore.
Correct.
I
you
have
start there.
Mm-hmm. But you work back
and work back.
So
however,
yes. That's what happened with St. Louis. Why does this always happen with St. Louis? But yeah, that was why we wanted to bring those in and figure out what's up with foul, not a foul. With the Bossy Bergvall, the Premier League's key match incidents panel has logged only 3 VAR errors for missed penalties this season, all been for holding offenses rather than tackles. The panel, though, has logged 12 penalties that should have been given by the referee but didn't reach the threshold for a VAR intervention. So the most recent judgments of the panel were that Brentford should have been given a kick against Koulibaly on Kevin Shade. Didn't cross the threshold of VAR. Same was for the Spurs penalty. Wanted at Ipswich for Dara O'Shea and his challenge on Kevin Danso. So keep these in your files and make sure that you can kind of file these away for future reference and all this kind of stuff. So national team.
Let's talk about it.
we have national team stuff to get into here.
Switching gears.
Yeah, well, that's what you're here for.
I know.
Well, that in the beginning of the NWSL season because that happened this past.
I don't even know if we have enough time to talk about that, but we can chat slightly about Orlando looking like they have not skipped a beat, beating Chicago 6-0. That was a beatdown. What a way to start the season! I'll give them that. Fireworks for sure.
Well, but I still think that Chicago is battling the juju of changing their name. That first off,
they had a very bad name change coupled with a very bad roster build, and Mal Swanson being out for reasons that no one's disclosing outside of just personal reasons. We're not quite sure.
Right.
Not a good recipe for Chicago, and they get smacked 6-0 by the best team in the league right now.
Woo! And Barbara Bonda, I think, scored twice. Is that correct?
I think that was twice. I think she had an assist. I forget if that was an actual assist or not. But yeah,
So yeah, you had
she's
your
good.
yeah. Last time I checked, yeah, she is in fact good. So L.A. and San Diego in the the SoCal Classico, that was a 1-1 draw. Seattle and Gotham. By the way, how many times do you get to sit there and say, "Well, yeah, we had someone get their debut at the age of 14."
Yeah, there's been a lot of discourse about this on the WOSO interwebs. I think this is a result of NWSL not having a robust academy system and certainly not having a robust reserve league for academy players to play in. But you're going to see this, not, and if the player's good enough, then they'll make a professional team. I mean, that's the thing is it's not like there's enough talent that you don't have to put a 14-year-old on your professional roster. There's enough talent, not only in the US, but also in this region to fill out a roster. So, I mean, clearly they earned it. But I do think that has a lot more to do with not having great academy structures for NWSL and women's soccer in general. That would be something that the league needs to start doing better of.
McKenna Witham, by the way, doesn't turn 15 until late July, and she came in late in the match for Gotham in their matchup against Seattle. So it was a 1-1 draw at Lumen. Goals on the board, but yeah, Witham comes in with she comes in for a cup of coffee at the end at 14 years and 7 months. So that was a big moment for Gotham in the league. So Racing Louisville encouraged a 1-1 draw. I don't know what it was about the 1-1 draw. Utah and Bay was
Yeah. It was like the trend of the opening weekend. It was like MLS had like 27 goals a game their opening weekend, and NWSL was like, well, each team's getting a goal except for Chicago.
And you get a goal, and you get a goal.
And that was it.
Orlando took Chicago's and scored more of their own.
Yeah.
KC beat Portland. Spirit beat Houston. But yeah, Orlando putting 6.
Yeah,
Chicago.
That is the story of the weekend, is that Orlando is still very good. I think Spirit getting a win on the road is a big one for them. Obviously the runners up last year, they probably feel like they should be a front runner this year. That was big for them. KC also winning at home 3-1 is really, those are the only notable results from the first week. Everything else is like, well, yeah, that's going to happen your first weekend in a league that is made on parity.
McCutcheon, Watt, an OG, Doyle, and 2 from Bonda in 7 minutes, 80th and the 87th, and that's how your NWSL season started. All right, international.
I feel bad for Chicago because their season ended last year with a pretty bad loss to Orlando. They start the season with a bad loss to Orlando. All right, national team, U.S. men's national team.
National team across the board. We have things that we have to get into because it's an opportunity for folks to sit there and go, well, it's time for the U.S. men's national team and everybody else to sit there and strap in and get ready for things. And that's the official term, is things. When you look at this week and this window, what are you staring at?
Well, I think when you look at the roster that was assembled, there were some big decisions that Mauricio Pochettino made. I think the most notable one is in the goalkeeper pool, where Ethan Horvath was left off, despite him getting back to playing with Cardiff City and playing regularly and playing fairly well. That was interesting. I think it's very clear that he likes Zach Steffen and likes Patrick Schulte.
Just don't have Steffen play with his feet.
Yeah, I mean, right. But I think the reality is Matt Turner is the starter, and I think Pochettino answered this question in a slightly interesting way. He said he's the starter, but it's not. He's a starter, but it's an open competition. But it's like, well, yeah, it's an open competition, but someone has to knock him off, and no one in a red, white, and blue shirt has figured out, well, whatever color they're wearing, purple, green, whatever, yellow, has figured out how to knock Matt Turner off of the number 1 spot for the U.S. men's national team. And we'll see how that works in camp. I think that to me was the most interesting group. The next one was probably your midfield group, because that was where you had some injuries that affected the depth, but the depth was not as what we expected. So Diego Luna getting his call in, Tanner Tessman getting a call in. Those two probably a little more interesting than most people have guessed. The snub here is Brendan Aronson, who has been a dutiful player for this national team, and quite frankly hasn't done anything in my measure to lose his spot. But I think when you look at the way Pochettino likes to set up his midfield, Diego Luna plays the tip of the spear better than what Brendan Aronson does, at least in a way that Poch likes. So if you're telling me that your attacking midfielders, if you will, are at this point, you're looking at probably Gio Reyna, Weston McKennie, and Diego Luna. Well, Diego Luna is the most Gio Reyna like without Malik Tillman here.
He's the most like. Absolutely.
Brendo is not that. Brendo is also not a Weston McKennie-like player. So I think that when you look at trying to build a roster, you're going, well, how do I find a player that fits what this player can do also? Brendo's a great player. But I understand why he has been passed over for style fit, not necessarily about who's necessarily a better player.
Mm-hmm.
But Malik Tillman out, that doesn't help things. But the rest of the midfield, we'll see if Johnny is out, or if he was just hurt. I think we'll hopefully get actual confirmation on that this week or today. But he was ruled out for the Betis match later last week. So I don't know where that stands right now. Then let's go to the forwards, John, because I think that was the one that most people had the most consternation over. But the reality is, Balogun's out, Pepe's out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, personally, yes, you brought up Aubameyang and Brian White. I don't understand Brian White. I don't think that he should be on this national team. It's great that he scores goals in MLS. He's nothing more than that. I'm sorry, he's not an international, in my opinion, international level player. He gets called in. So that's 3 forwards. Well, that probably doesn't happen if both Balogun and Pepe are healthy. Let's just be real about that. I do think it's interesting that your wingers are very light. That's probably the biggest surprise here is you have Weah, you have Reyna, and you have Musa as your wingers. I think most people agree we don't love Musa as a right winger. He doesn't quite do the attacking things we need a right-sided attacking player to do. But Pochettino basically said, we just put him as a forward. That doesn't mean he's playing as an attacking player necessarily. We may see him more in the midfield. I'm interested to see how that midfield looks. But I think the critique I would have is, why bring 3 forwards when you could have brought an extra winger as in Dejas or someone like that who is an actual winger? That I think is a legitimate criticism, even with the injuries.
Keeper. So here's the roster top to bottom. Keepers, Turner, Schulte, and Steffen. Defenders, Ream, Robinson, Scally, McKenzie, Trusty, CCV, Fossey, and Richards. Midfielders, Tessman, Luna, McKennie, Cardoso, Adams, and Reyna. Forwards, Musa, Pulisic, Ajimang, White, Sargent, and Weah. So that's your rundown for this particular group here. In this here CONCACAF Nations League roster takeaways that you're looking at. But yeah, a lot of folks were looking at Alex Zendejas, and you're going, what? Brendan Erickson, what? Paxton Aronson, what? And you end up with these names here.
Yep.
That's
where I think, like, Brendan Aronson, again, to go back to him, is really the only, in my opinion, true snub, because he could have also been listed as a forward and played on the wing, which we've seen him do in the past, right? And so I do think that is a question of, how did he fall that far down the pecking order? But I mean, really, when we were looking at this, and again, we were more confused about 3 forwards than why not bring an extra winger. But every other position, it was like, well, yeah, that kind of makes sense. You even look at the back line, and you have 5 center backs, 3 fullbacks. It makes kind of sense. I mean, Jedi's going to play there, and if he's not playing left back, then I think you put Tim Ream out there, or maybe you put one of the either McKennie, Musa, or Weah at left wing back, or you put Joe Scally over there and you put one of those guys at right back. There's a lot of things that you can move around. I think it's the most notable thing is 3 forwards, 2 of which are just kind of like, I don't know, man.
USA, Panama, Mexico, and Canada on the 20th. The final and third place games are next Sunday. So obviously, as we get closer to things, that's the official term, we can get closer to USA and Panama figuring out camp in Mexico and Canada and what lineups are going to look like and all that kind of stuff, because we have camps and things to talk about. So I know, obviously, from 30,000 feet and a week away, you're looking at USA probably winning a grinder against Panama, I would imagine. And then Mexico and Canada, Jesse Marsh going to have some fun against Mexico. That one's going to be a fun one to watch for the back end of that doubleheader.
Yeah, I think the Mexico-Canada match will be more entertaining, but the U.S.-Panama match will probably be the more tense match, because I'm sure Panama will be ready to either throw some elbows or find some elbows in the back of their head again. That is kind of the real story. Is this is an opportunity for real revenge, despite what Miami was talking about last night. It's only revenge when you beat them to knock them out of something, right?
Yeah.
We knocked y'all out of the playoffs. Winning a game at home is whatever. Okay, good for y'all. This is a good revenge opportunity against Panama, where you less than a year ago did a stupid and lose to them, which basically gives up all of your hopes in the Copa America. You've got an opportunity to kind of reset yourself and right that ship tonight in Nations League, or not tonight, Thursday night.
This
in
week,
Nations
yeah, this week.
See,
there you go. So is there anything, cards, calls, national team, NWL?
Well, Parzival wants to ask about Brooks Lennon, and I'm just going to tell y'all, Brooks is. There's a lot of right backs. I'm sorry, there just is. Also, Brooks has played one frickin' game of soccer in the last 6 months, 5 months.
Yeah.
He ain't getting called up to the Nations League. Sorry, y'all.
I know he's got some work to do. He is.
I'm not against like the idea. Like, I definitely think if you're talking about right backs from the U.S. who are domestic based, I think Brooks is up there. But
you need more of a dossier now that you're back and healthy, I think.
Yeah, and when you look at this, he's not better than Marlon Fossey. I'm really sorry, he just isn't. And also with right backs, I'm sorry, our number one right back, who, by the way, roster notes, Haji Wright and Serginho Dest, while they're back to playing soccer, when the preliminary roster was due back in February, they were not back to playing soccer. And that's what happens.
Yeah.
But that's the other answer to that Brooks Lennon question, is like, well, okay, you're only bringing 2 right backs at all to any competition.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be Serginho Dest and probably Joe Scally, who's starting week in and week out in the Bundesliga. Tell me where Brooks Lennon has done anything to unseat either of those. Then tell me who he's better than, because that's the question. You can call for a player all you want. You got to tell me who he's replacing on the roster, because especially in these competitions, John, there is a roster limit. This isn't a training camp where you can invite 72 people and say, okay, have fun.
I want a roster of 72 people.
I mean, I would love for training camp that way. Don't get me wrong. But he missed his opportunity in January because he was hurt.
Right.
And he's just not better than any of the right back options that were called up. Sorry. That just is the reality with Brooks. And I like Brooks. I'm one of the number one defenders of Brooks Lennon on Atlanta United Twitter. And we saw his impact last night and how we've missed him. No offense to Matt Edwards. He's been fun, but Brooks is just a more impactful attacking player. It just is what it is.
Different skill set.
I think it's also fair to say Brooks's defensive talents aren't as good as other guys who could be considered for the national team. And that includes Serginho Dest, who defending is not what he's known for, but he can do it. I would love for Brooks to get on there. We need another Atlanta United player who's actually in the national team picture now that we don't have Caleb Wiley anymore. But sorry, y'all, Brooks is just not the likely candidate. I think you're more likely to get Noah Cobb in a couple of years than Brooks Lennon right now.
And then following Noah Cobb, a couple of years after that, DCQ is who I'm looking at as a part of
he could be fun. I'm a little sad Efrain has chosen another country over the U.S., but good for him. I just wish we had a dude who was that big and good at clearing balls in the air in our in our pool.
Well,
Because Walker Zimmerman's getting too old for that.
does Zephyr have the one-time switch available, or did he use it to go?
Oh man, I think I'm trying to think. I'm
or
pretty
was
sure he's
that one-time switch to his current state?
No, I think so. He's I want to say because you played in an official competition,
then you
like official competition, that
out.
complicates because he was on the roster for Copa America for Bolivia,
Okay.
and he has played World Cup qualifiers for them even too. So I think that is going to really be and he's 21, so he can't do it unless I mean I think he has played official competitions for Bolivia over the age of 21, which I think this could happen. This could change. I don't know when the next FIFA meets in May. They could change that completely. But John, do you want me to talk about why Miles didn't called up? Because he's not very good at center back anymore. Sorry. He left Atlanta and stopped being good at center backs. It's not my problem to defend him anymore. Sorry. He made his decision.
There you go.
I ain't here to defend Miles Robinson.
Yeah.
He's not better than any of the guys that got called up. Sorry. Is he better than Chris Richards? No. Is he better than Mark McKenzie, who's been playing very well for Toulouse? No. Is he better than Trusty and CCV? He hasn't shown it. And as John pointed out early, maybe hurt. So
he's dinged.
There you go.
Yep. Left.
Miles did not have a good January camp. He did not. He did not impress. He was supposed to be the adult in the room. Did not look like the adult in the room. So that's why he didn't get called up. Well, I mean, guys, just because you know a dude doesn't mean he deserves to get called up. Just because he played in the five stripes.
I know a guy. I know a guy. He needs to be called up.
I don't think Miles has earned it. That's just the reality, and he doesn't have the club status to say, okay, I'm healthy, here I am.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. And you brought 5 center backs again. I don't know who he's better than. Maybe Ream, but Ream's there for a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One of those being he can also play left back. And okay, good. Glad you're not mad that Miles isn't on the roster because I was going to have to do a wellness check on you there, John, because that is
wow.
Ropes. That is
wow.
Yeah, he did drop in form. That's what happened.
So. Wow. So what's the next Soccer for US POD?
I sent you one. Hopefully this morning it got to you.
Oh, you did? Hang on. Efforting.
I schedule sent. So let's see if
you schedule sent.
Yeah, you can do that with the Gmail. You can schedule send at.
There it is. EP 113 as a matter
of fact. So episode 113 should come out sometime today, which is looking at the roster and kind of talking about the
like lunchtime
against Panama.
Like when I'm off the air and I can sit here and stare at it. But now that I know
that'll be it. Yeah. And then we'll talk about what happens this week, next week.
Yeah, what he said. As always, my friend, I know that the fourth held up a rather large number, and we just blew right past it. But no, thanks for covering all the stuff and all the things.
Hey, look, we got a bonus minute last night in the game too. So,
well, I mean, considering that somebody sat down, I wasn't.
It made sense. Yes,
one of the few times that folks seem to add time back on the clock. As always, my friend, enjoy wearing your green and enjoy Les Miserables out of the mug, and we will catch up with you soon, my friend. Thanks for dropping by on Mondays. You always do.
Happy St. Patrick's Day to you all, and go bra.
Yes, exactly what he said. So there goes Bart. So episode 113 of the Soccer for US POD is going to come out after we've sorted out the morning show. After we are done editing here, after we're done on the air here, then we'll piece it together. You'll get Abe's segment separately. You get the show posted with Bart's taking up hour number 2, and then the Soccer for US POD episode 113, where we decided to go over a lot of different topics. It was calls and cards, and we had to walk through it, and that's what I want to do in these situations. I know that fans have things that they want to discuss, and so what I want to do in those situations is discuss what your concerns from the weekend, but do it within the context of the laws of the game and how we can advance things forward. But and thanks to Bart for helping sort all that stuff out from what we saw yesterday and what we saw this weekend and getting ready for Nations League and all those kinds of things, and women's soccer in the NWSL. And the appearance of a 14-year-old, which reminds me, we need to get Jen Hildreth on the show to talk about things and her new book. So we'll turn that into a Jen Hildreth segment whenever we can grab Jen and she's not touring the planet doing NWSL activity on the four-letter family of networks. Okay, Let me go back in and see what else is on everybody's mind because I know I hit a point and it stopped. Uh, let's see. So Lokeville wants to know about the actions of fans. It wasn't words. It wasn't words. It literally was people throwing stuff. And so I think that if you go to the end, if for those of you that have Apple TV, I think you can go to the end of the broadcast and you can see it happening. So yeah, don't do it. If you see people wanting to do it, tell them not to, unless they don't want to be back in the building ever again. And Abby, this was something that I thought that maybe early on, just from inexperience, not just because of the fact he's listed at 5'10". Abby was wondering about taking more shots from distance on Rocco, and you saw the one shot in the 59th minute, I want to say from 30, by Tristan Muyumba that he had to go full stretch, made contact with it, went off the crossbar, and then went wide for a corner. So I thought that there would have been more shots from distance early on, just from an inexperienced standpoint of being in that kind of an environment and being on the other side of it for Rocco. Morning, Harry. Abel still doesn't know what Alexi's role is as a DP. He is a facilitator. He is, and this was, we talked about it last night on Full Time Report, where with Alexi, you have his imagination, you have him there in the midfield. He is a point guard that can shoot, for turning things into basketball parlance. He's got a great imagination, and it is, when it's available for him. He had the one shot from outside, just as an example. As I say, a point guard who can shoot. He had the one opportunity, I want to say from like 22 or 23, that challenged Rocco at one point in the match. I want to say it was in the second half. No, it was in the first half. And so you have that kind of ability to shoot, but you also have the imagination to connect, and we saw that last season. And so now he's having to, and like I said, this was the point that I was getting into with Abe, where you have someone in Alexi who knew what players were looking for last year. It's like, I know what Shonda needs. I know what Jamal wants. I know what Saba wants. I know what you're looking at and I know what Jay wants when he's kind of converted and he goes up the left-hand side. But now Alexi, with Miggy and with Saba and with Latte Lot, he's having to once again relearn Miggy and Latte Lot, in addition to what he had learned last season from Saba. And so that's what I'm saying with point guards. Point guards, and that second nature of, it's like, okay, I know when he's going to make the cut here, and I know he wants the pass here. I know he wants a bounce pass, or I think he wants it right on the number so he can fire up and get the launch the three, those kinds of things. So it is a talented point guard who can shoot. That's the best way that I can describe Miranchuk. No, I don't think that. And Pars is mentioning it. That Pars is mentioning that Miggy perhaps might not have been told to go to Brooks. I don't think that's the case. It's just, once again, getting acclimated to individuals, and it's like, okay, I know that Brooks is going to do this, but I mean, remember, go back to the goal where Derek to Miggy drops an absolute dime to Brooks, and then Brooks takes care of business, and it goes to Latte Lot and goes in the back of the net. No, I think that if you're on that side, you're going to be passing. I think that if you're inverted, it's going to be up to Pedro on the left-hand side to find the inverted winger, and the same for Brooks, looking down the middle, looking for Latte Lot. So I think I think that's what you're looking at there. Wiley's fired up this morning as always, and then Emilio fired up as always. I would disagree on Bart Sleesh needing to sit, and I think that, once again, is with the discussion that we've gotten into about Miranchuk. It's once again just trying to figure out, okay, he needs it here, he needs it here, he wants it on this foot, he wants this advance, and so you're trying to have to think of things all over again in 3 dimensions. And let's see. So Pars with a question. We were discussing the high school schedule. Ever had to call a game in a stadium where the press box is set up on the track finish line? I'm trying to think. I mean, not like ground level track finish line, because most press boxes have a lineup to where, I mean, that would be down at the edges. I mean, I haven't been in a press box situation where the press box is all the way down at the end of the 100 meters. That's a weird place. That to me sounds like it's track first and then all the other sports second. So that was weird. Morning, David. Let's see. Morning, Abby. And then once again, yeah, and like I said, and Abel mentioning Jordi Alba. Jordi Alba, I don't know what got into under his skin last night, but I think he obviously should have been carded sooner than because of what was going on the field. And I'm not a fan of histrionics, but I understand where Messi and friends are coming from with this. If it has worked for them in Europe, they're going to try and apply those same kinds of principles like distraction and all that kind of stuff like we saw. This was the other thing that I forgot to get into with Bart, having to do with distraction leading to the second goal, or leading to not the I think it was the second goal, but the distraction that was made by Suarez to Drew Fisher, and then they restart, and then they get everything dialed up and running. So distracting the officials, crowding the officials, it's stuff that they've done in Europe. And so that's in there. It's in there and internationally. So it's in their DNA to want to do those kinds of things. And so until they are told no, they're going to continue to do it. And so it's up to the center ref to not take any ish and sit there and it's like, nope, but do this, the halo bit. And it's like, everybody back up, or you start to go blackjack dealer on. It's like bang, bang, bang. You've gone inside my 8 feet, 8 inches. So let's see. So, and then, all right. So there's pars. And this is another thing. Consistently coming out late after the half. And they do need a yellow. They really do. I'd love to know how many matches they come out late and how many consecutive they've come out late on the road. It's like you hit your warm-up times and all this kind of stuff. Nah, they make you wait. I mean, it's once again, it's great gamesmanship for them, especially in a tie game where you're all amped up, you're ready to go, and it's just like, nah, we'll be out there in a sec. And then you're out there and you're bouncing up and you're ready to go. Nah, we'll be there. But no, bang, card. And then the 6-second rule not enforced according to pars. Abby got a delivery to the seat yesterday for the participation in the preseason virtual event. Oh, they delivered the signed jersey. Very nice. Yes, wearing green today. And the Kung Fu, welcome. I think this is the first time that you have been a part of the discussion. So TKF, don't be a stranger. The Kung Fu, not a Kung Fu, but the Kung Fu. And to your point, hopefully more training together helps the gel. Absolutely. Yeah, and so this is when we got into the discussion with Bart, with David, and Abel, and this is it's been their MO. Absolutely, it has since they were in Barcelona. Absolutely true. Yeah, and then that's the thing. David says on the broadcast, Jason said Drew Fisher needed to wave them away, and for the most part, he did not. And so when you don't do this, and it's like, bruh, I'm trying to talk to the captain here, you're enabling that behavior. And so, yeah, you have to have a center ref who is confident in themselves and in applying the rules of engagement. It's like, you do this, everybody back out. Is any of you a captain? Who's got the vice armband? Those kinds of things. But no. Morning, Unk. And morning, Derek. And let's see. Bart said, I figured that Bart taught the course in all honesty. Unk wants to know about starters gone next week for Cincy. So it would be right now. It would be Stian, and let me get the official note, at least the note from the folks that were rushing out the door. So for those that will be out, Gregerson, Sleesh, Almiron, and then Luke and Noah for the U20s. So right now, Gregerson, Sleesh, and Miggy. So once again, you're looking at your midfield of, and like I said, right now, and this is just off the top of my head, And like I said, you'll have the access from the twos, and so you'll have some twos players that will be filling out your roster in Cincinnati. So if you work from the back, your questions are one at the back, because it'll be Pedro, Derek, and Brooks. Midfield, monitoring the health of Mateus Click. You'll have Jay Fortune. You'll have, and this is starting, you'll have Jay, you'll have Click in theory, and you'll also have Tristan Muyumba. So that's once again 3 of your 3, and you're probably going to ask them to go 90 minutes. Like I said, don't know the health of Mateus Click, but once again, if monitoring his illness this week means he can start next week in Cincinnati, that will play. Then up top, it's probably some combination of Shande, Togashi, and the health of Jamal. Don't know the health of Ronald Hernandez either, and we do not know if Luis Abram has gotten a call up by Peru. So that is, let me check here real quick. So Luis Abram, and so that's just like literally that is just me kind of blowing through at the top of my head what it would end up being. So so Luis Abram came in, gave you 6, and that's kind of what you're looking at. So so like literally that's what I'm looking at. So keep an eye on all of that. But right now, it is in some combination, once again, trying to fill spaces. Like I said, we don't know the health of Ronald Hernandez. We don't know the health of Jamal TRA. And those would fill in 2 of your spaces, and you're also monitoring the health of Mateus Click. So Pedro, Derek, Brooks with one of your center backs, or trying to figure out how you want to navigate your center backs. Like I said, I don't know about Luis Abram and CONMEBOL duty. Midfield, monitoring the health of Mateus Click. Jay, Tristan. Then up top, it is Togashi probably, and it is Shande, and then monitoring the health of Jamal. And that's getting close to your starting 11. Like I said, that's off the top of my head. So, and Derek, by the way, your comment about Jordi Alba, you are not alone in that assessment about Jordi Alba. I'll just go ahead and say that right now. Let's see. Yes, Abby, mentioning the rest of the week. This is the Thursday program for the week. So that's what we're looking at the Moxie, 7 o'clock. Maddie and I will be running point on that. Also, yes, and so, yeah, Jordi Alba. Derek says Jordi Alba is a punk. There you go. All right. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it before we get out of here. And I know that we're heading into international windows, and we got things to talk about as well as we go for this week and next. All right. So, limited men's schedule once again as teams are heading into the international break. Gold TV, Uruguayan Primera, 6 and 8:15 with our buddy Nino Torres. You can catch that at Fanatis, ftz.co/soccer down here. MLSnextpro.com, Union 2, Red Bulls 2 at 7 o'clock. Fox Deportes at 9, Liga MX Femenil, Tigres and Mazatlan. DAZN USA, Frauen Bundesliga, 1 o'clock. Vix has Pumas and Tijuana at 6 in Liga MX Femenil. So also, quick promos. Once again, go to Olive and York, get your jersey. And you can get your jersey for Atlanta United, thanks to our friends at Kaiser Permanente, Beyond Goals, Soccer for Good, Navy jersey. You have the choice if you personalize it, white letters and numerals, or the Carolina blue letters and numerals. I'm sending out another Marshall Islands scarf from the office. Like I said, I got about a dozen before I have to make another reorder. So if you order stuff from the Marshall Islands, everything else gets shipped from England. Scarves get shipped from me on the other side of this wall, or I meet you at an Atlanta United game or something like that. Sending one to Ohio, I believe, to help things out there. Also, it is, you can, don't forget to join and be a Fanatico here at SDH. You can hang out with all of us on a daily basis and find out what is going on with all the things. And you can do that once again. Go to group.chant.fan. soccer down here /join. You can be a Fanatico, $10 a year, get a lot of great discounts. We were having more folks added to the places where you can get great discounts and stuff. Group.chant.fan/soccer down here /join. And you can become a part of things here on the Chant app with us here at SDH. Let's see. So, Grady Baby Co. You can get the Soccer's Just Better in Atlanta sweatshirt. You can get it in red. You can get it in black. Gold lettering. Soccer's Just Better in Atlanta. This is one of my old school sweatshirts that has become one of the more comfortable things that I've got. And you can go to soccerdownhere.net, got all of our new gear and the attack stuff and the ruckus stuff, I think is what Jason has artistried and is up there as well. 5:30, 7:30, Druid Hills and Clarkston on the network on soccerdownhere.mixler.com or on the Mixler app where you follow Soccer Down Here and you can get everything live and in color. And you get an email notification about everything that is there. So I think that is a show. Like I said, tomorrow and this week, we're going to try and navigate what's going on in and around as MLS is getting ready for all the things. Try and track down Laurel Failer at some point. We're going to catch up with our friends in Augusta with the Augusta soccer team and the UPSL. That'll be a conversation. There'll be a 1v1 that will be up later this week on the network. Get your pools ready for the tournament that is going on in March and April. And we're keeping an eye on everything. So we have the games at Adams Stadium tonight, 5:30 and 7:30, keeping an eye. Hopefully we can be in Jefferson for Coney County and Jefferson for your Friday as well. And then the third Thursday event at the Moxie Midtown, that is coming up on Thursday. So thanks for all of you guys for hanging out with us again on a Monday. We'll talk about it more tomorrow. We'll catch up with the sound from Ronnie Dyla, get your highlights, talk about the twos, all the things across the board. So since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. Be back at it again, lesson 22. Thanks for hanging out with us as you always do here on a Monday on SDH AM. Play it safe, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.